Can I put a bug in your ear before you start?
We're already started.
Okay.
You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 FM and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in very, very sunny and beautiful Northport, Florida. And I've got my very special guest in the house, Mr. Peter Bartolotta, who
Hi.
we've talked about. And hi, Peter. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks, John.
So we've talked about a whole lot of things out there. And I know we've got two viewers, and I want to take those two viewers and kind of exploit their minds here for a second. Let's get some hot topics that you listeners. It's Fun Friday. It's a great day here in Northport to start open dialogue, and let's keep the bantering back and forth down to a bare minimum. But let's have an open dialogue. Let's pick a topic. And let's have open discussion and let's have conversation back and forth. Now, I know that housing is an issue in Northport. We've talked about workforce housing in the past. I know that the city of Northport's working on affordable housing that's out there. There's all kinds of different influencers that play a role in our community as far as that goes. But I also want to bring up the fact that I think our lazy voting population needs to get off their can and do their job and start voting for the right people for school board and the right people to run other organizations and other city levels. So, I'm going to start out by cranking it up a little bit and saying we as a city need to take full responsibility of our community, lock, stock, and barrel. And that's no reference to guns other than what I just said. So, truth of the matter is we have got to take control back of our local government. And if we don't do that as citizens right here, right now, we're going to go further the directions that people are taking us now that we all are up in arms about. I've received multiple emails and text messages, and I've met with a lot of different residents here in town now and had open dialogue. And I'm going to throw this back at Peter. What is the importance of getting people to engage, and not just in our community, but even at the school board level? What is the value that the city gains from participation from the residents?
Well, the value the city gets, I guess, is hopefully it's a city that's governed by the people, which is what it should be. But getting people involved and getting people to want to run is easier said than done. I've been trying for years, and I typically get the comment, "I haven't got the time." But a lot of people, I don't think, realize what's involved in being a commissioner. A lot of
or even a school board representative or anything else that's out there, being even part of like the different committees within the city. A lot of these things are done now with, and I'll just throw out even the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce has different committees that I'm involved in. And as long as you're willing to go to a virtual meeting, you're not even driving there anymore. They're making this so much more adaptable because of COVID that while it's a little bit of your time, but you're taking about an hour and a half of drive time, conversation time, and then another hour or hour and a half of meeting time. So you're taking a 4-hour swatch of volunteer time, and you're reducing that to 45 minutes to an hour. And I think people need to understand that even at a local level now, organizations are trying to do and sculpt things that's more friendly to the residents than ever before. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think most people have a misconception of what it means to get involved. When they say they don't have the time, ask them how much time does it take, and typically they'll say, well, I don't really know. So then how do you know? You don't have the time. So, and to your point, to get involved in a committee, For the city, you have to submit an application, which is no big deal. It's nothing, no financials, nothing that's earth shattering. And it's presented to the commission at a commission meeting, and they vote. And usually they vote to bring the person on. There's been a few cases where they haven't, but for the most part. And go and listen. Just go to the meeting. The meeting's an hour long, maybe an hour and a half at the most, once a month, if that. And it gives you a forum to express some of your thoughts and ideas. If you don't like it, if you think that's too much time, then or it's not going in the direction you want, you can always quit or change the direction. So, when people say to me that they haven't got the time, I say, why don't you give it a try first? Because you've got ideas. We proved that with Vision Northport, that people want to share their ideas. So share your ideas, but share them in an environment where it can get something done. And
I'm going to ask you a question, because I think people need to be aware, more so than ever before, that local government is where we see the results quicker versus more at the federal level. We're looking at 3 to 5 years out. And most people are maybe out of office before some of these things happen. But on the local level, things are happening to our community. And if you're not engaged and you're not understanding local politics, it's what affects you every day. And I want to go to the flip side of not getting involved. Let's say that there's policies that's being passed right now that you don't like because you haven't paid attention. Okay. Well, today's a new day. Today's a fresh start. Because guess what? There's all kinds of things happening in our community right now that may be good, may be bad, but it's hard to undo what's already been done because of lack of participation or lack of understanding. And our community being so young and being so driven that they stay at work a lot longer. Their time frame, I get it. I was there. I'm a dad. I'm a grandpa. I'm a volunteer. All this time I do the radio show is a volunteer. All the time you spent was volunteer. But it's really hard to undo policies that are put into place when you're, as a resident, you're walking around going, I didn't even know that happened. How do we fix it? Well, it's hard to go backwards. That's why we are really desperately trying to get people to engage, at least get your feet wet and understand that we're moving. As a city, we are moving and shaking like never before on all cylinders. And the rate of growth in this town, it can either continue or it can get stifled. And there are populations out there that want to stifle the crap out of it, that claim to be growth, and they're not. Or the growth side can run roughshod over some of our natural preserves and kind of put us in this dilemma. And I know I'm sounding like aggressive today, but you know what? It's a holiday weekend. I got 3 days to think about what I'm saying. And you know what? I think sometimes as a community, we need to hit them between the eyes.
Yeah.
Do you kind of feel that same way, Peter?
Yeah. You don't know what you don't know. And that's the part of the problem we have, I think, is in electing people, is we really don't know what they plan on doing when they get in office. And that's because we don't ask them. We take, information like, I'm going to be fiscally responsible. Well, of course, we expect that of you. I'm going to be transparent. We expect that of you. And that's written into the charter and written into the rules that govern the position. But what are you actually going to do? If you ran for office, John, and at the end of 4 years, what could you say you did that had an impact on Northport and on the quality of life and what have you? And I'm not talking about legislation. I'm not talking about, making laws and what have you, because that comes after the fact. The first thing is, what is the vision? Me, I keep going back to the same thing. What is the vision? What is the plan? And we're in a situation where we're the third or fourth largest city by square miles in the state. We are the largest city in Manatee, Charlotte, Sarasota County, and I think maybe not Lee County. I think Cape Coral, which is kind of similar to Northport, it might be a little bit larger, but we're the largest city in that tri-county area by population today, and we will be for the foreseeable future. A lot of people don't realize the city we live in is projected to build out at somewhere between 200 and 275,000 people, depending upon who you listen to. But either way, it's big. And there's no other place in the tri-county area that can be the size that we are. Now, if it's residential and, it costs government money to support the residential market, and it costs them money because they don't want to charge what the fair tax rate would be, because that's not how you get elected. Sorry to say. So what does it cost? 75. It costs. We pay 75 cents for every dollar that the city spends to service us with police, fire, garbage pickup, water, sewer, etc. So where does the other 25 cents come from? And you go to the business side, the commercial side, government has always hit the business side more. And for every dollar that the city spends servicing businesses, they generate $1.25, I think it is, in revenue. So if that makes sense, we need to build that tax base. And not doing it is going to come back in the form of taxes. Now, government has a great way of I think, hiding tax. I don't know if you notice your electric bill, but your sales tax on FPL, the city tax on FPL went up to, what is it, 9%, is it? Or it jumped. So you're paying more in taxes. Now, FPL collects it, so you don't see it as a city tax. But guess what? We're paying for that. Why are we paying for that? Is it costing the city more money to administer Florida Power and Light? I don't think so. But it's a revenue source that the city pulls because it needs money. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
So if you don't want to get involved, then just let what's happening happen. At what point do the residents stand up and say, wait a minute, something's wrong? We can't keep paying more taxes in whatever form you want to call it. Impact fees are a tax. Florida Power and Light, Comcast, we pay a tax on that. So all of these taxes, at what point do the people get upset? And guess what? That point typically is when it's too late, or it's going to take years to get it back down to what it is. So learn what it is. Northport Forward, by the way, is a great group to they focus on education, to give you information in a digestible form that you can listen, read about and check it out and see where it takes you.
Well, and I've had these open dialogues with Chuck English and several others within our community who are very active and trying to get the word out. But we sit and talk about taxes. We talk about increases here and there. We talk about participation. One of the hot topics for me is the new tree ordinance, because it's just another way of collecting tax dollars from citizens who truthfully should be voting in our town, that are landowners, that they don't even know what happened to them as landowners yet. And they're going to find out as they sell. And I'm just not a fan of it because of I think there's some lack of education that was spewed out at the beginning. And I've had Alice White on the show. She was very determined to get information out, and I like her for exactly what she stands behind. Because the one thing that I will give her credit for is that she actually told everybody exactly what she wanted to do, and she got it, and I commend her for it, because the funny thing is you started out with can you tell me what you were going to do before you went in and what you did while you were in? She's not out yet, and she's actually obtained exactly what she was. That's why she's got my respect, is because at the same time I may not agree with her full-heartedly on everything. You have to respect somebody who tells you what they're going to do before they go in. and they
Yep.
actually perform exactly what they said they were going to do, and they actually achieved it. So I give her a lot of kudos, and talking to Chuck English, we bantered back and forth for about 3 hours, but at the end of the day, it's still a tax. It's still collecting tax dollars, and quite frankly, I want to believe that they're never going to maneuver that money around. But anytime you have a cesspool of money sitting there screaming, "Use me for something else," they will find a way, and they will reorganize and reshift and plan that way. But if we don't have citizens who understand and get involved and really get down to the brass tacks, all of those, the tree ordinance really right now is really set up for the residents. It's truthfully not the commercial guys. They're gonna clear these lots. They're gonna pay that money. They're gonna shift that funding somewhere else. It's the individual residential landowners who are not present, who are not voting, and are not paying attention. And it was an easy target for them to hit. And that's how I look at it. I'm just calling the truth as truth. They may not like it, but sometimes we have to agree to disagree.
Yep.
But if we don't get citizens involved and people don't, I don't want you spreading disinformation. I don't want you spreading misinformation. Read it, follow it, understand. But you know what? Go right back and ask questions. Don't fear the question. You might want to fear the answer, because at times, we have to hold our politicians, our school board members. Listen, we need to clean house at school board. There's some really, really bad decision makers at the school board, and I'm a fan of 100% getting people involved that maybe have a clearer vision, and maybe a background, and we've talked about it in the past, maybe a background of success in other things that maybe brings value not just to the city, but even some of the boards and even the school board. I think we have to look at a totality of what's happening in our community, because it's just not commission, it's just not the advisory boards, it's just not the school board. But when you look at it in totality, there's a lot going on and a lot of decisions being made right now that the middle of the road people, and there's more middle of the road people in our town than our left and right. I believe that full-heartedly, but they're not asking the right questions. And I've got a question from Bill English, or Chuck.
Hey, Bill.
He said, would you rather had an environmental impact fee versus the tree ordinance? I'm assuming that's what you're reflecting it to.
Is he asking you that question or me? Or
it's probably a combination, or me, because I'm shooting my mouth off. How about that? and see, I'm allowed to do that. And I'm loving the fact that he's doing this, because we actually did that before. But you know what? I'd have rather been a clearer picture, because if you're voting for something and I ask you a question and you can't give me the answer, you didn't think about it long enough. You didn't have a game plan to come back with real answers. And that's my frustration. And I voiced my frustration with all of them. And it's the fact that on you can lean one way or the other. I get it. It's that if you vote for something, if you're in a position of voting and regulating the population, I think you have to be prepared for both answers.
Well, here's what I'd like to see. Every candidate should be asked 4 questions, and simple questions that they can answer, that gives the voter a sense of what impact they're going to have and how it's going to affect me. Question number 1 is, what are you going to do? And this can apply to 3 or 4 different things, but each item should be asked, what are you going to do? So, okay, I'm going to preserve the environment. Great. I don't think you'll find one person out there that disagrees with that.
Nope.
Question number 2, how are you going to do it? Okay, just give me some, and I'm not talking about really good, just an idea of how are you going to do that. Number 3, what resources do you have access to that gives me confidence that you can do what you say you're going to do? Okay. And number 4, what's it going to cost? Now I've got the information. So if you tell me I want to preserve the environment, I say, I agree with you. If you say I want to preserve the environment at a cost of $2,000 a year to every Northport resident, I'm going to say, whoa, wait a minute. Now, we did something in Vision Northport that was interesting. We asked how people felt about economic development. And I think something like 80% said they wanted to see economic development. We asked them, what would you be willing to spend?
Right.
And we gave them 4 choices: $0, $25 a year, $50 a year, 5 choices, and $100 a year. And over 60% said they'd be willing to spend $100 a year going into a fund for economic development. So just because you're asking people how much is it going to cost, don't be afraid of it. You know, people are willing to spend a dollar amount to accomplish the goal, but we need to know up front what that dollar amount is. And what's happening now is we're getting people like, okay, we're going to preserve the environment, and then we're adding costs on all over the place. And we don't know if that's a good cost, a bad cost. We just don't know. So I think you need to ask politicians that question up front.
Well, and I'm going to ask Chuck a question because he's asking a lot of information, but where do you stand, Chuck? And I know I'm doing this via texting, so the radio show people don't see it, but you know, he's asking great questions. What is our perspective? What is your perspective on what a city commission who's getting elected? What is your perspective on what you're looking for? I know that one of the comments he put in there is, I find it very hard to vote for any candidate that will not stand, defend, or debate their beliefs, no matter what party. I agree with that statement.
Totally agree.
100% total in the totality that it is. And truthfully, I'd like to know what everybody who's watching right now thinks of the lack of participation. I know that we talk a lot about things that are happening on this show. How about the thing that isn't happening? Where is the citizen engagement? Where is all of the things that we're trying to push for? If we don't get our citizens engaged, where's it all going to go? And that is a problem. When we've been battling this now, I've been down here for 22 years, and I can't think of a time we weren't battling this same problem. And at least we have platforms now that we didn't have before. And I'm going to throw something up that Barbara Lockhart, other than the P&Z and zoning advisory boards have no power, they can only recommend. This may likely be a reason why many people don't want to spend their time. It is frustrating to spend hours of one's life restrained by sunshine law working on topics that could bring positive change but could go nowhere beyond the recommendation of memo to commission. Pete, you're shaking your head. Go for it.
Yeah, I sit on an advisory board, so I understand the frustration. But not, good things take time. And good people need to step up and get on those boards and start pushing that message to the commission, and looking at the people we put in office. An interesting note, and everybody can do this by going to the city clerk's website, and on that website it says the elections, and look at the candidates running right now for seat 5. Okay, I'm not going to say who's who, but one of them had a recall vote on evidently some significant stuff in his previous where he previously lived, and the other two, you have to fill out a form with the supervisor of elections, right? It says, where do you live? Two of them, when it comes up, it says city. They said they live in the city of Venice. That's their mailing address. They don't even understand that they're in Northport. These people are in West Villages. In fact, all three of the candidates right now come from West Villages. And two of them in their city put down Venice. Well, it's a Venice zip code. It's not, they don't live in the city of Venice. And that kind of makes me concerned when they run.
I agree with you. But I want to walk back maybe some frustration, okay? Because I want to give equal and fair, balanced look. Because while I agree with you 110%, like over the top, I agree with you. I'm going to back off on that only for one reason: is that mailing address is got to be documented somewhere. Now, if they're claiming they live in Venice and they don't live in the city of Northport, you might as well just.
It's on the papers. Okay, it's on the papers they filed to run.
Yeah, no,
you can see them, but
that's their mailing address. So if they're applying and they have to put their mailing address down, and that's a legit thing to do.
No, it's not, because if you put Northport with that zip code, your mail still comes to Northport.
Until the federal government to change that, I'm going to side, while ever so lenient, I'm going to side with that. But I hope that if they're actually running in the city, that is one thing that they have to put on paper form. But I hope that they understand where they actually live, because I know there's some bright light bulbs up there. And I want to believe that most of the people who are struggling to understand where they live also can read a map and realize that unincorporated Sarasota County is in between Northport and Venice, and we don't touch each other. So if you're struggling with the idea and you live in Venice and you live in Welland Park, find a map, just pull it up and validate it for yourself, and realize that if you put Bobby Joe, Florida with your zip code, you're still going to get your mail.
John, I hear you, but all I'm saying is they're running for the Northport City Commission.
Right.
And when they fill out their address, they tell people they live in Venice. It says city. What city do you live in? And they put Venice. Sorry, but anyway.
I know that I'm there, but
it bothers me.
It bothers me too, because they can just as well put the city of Northport on their envelope and get their same mail.
That's right.
I actually think that we should have done that when we were sending them things that says, hey, pay attention to where you're getting your mail from. It's city of Northport. Yep. And I've got a comment from Debbie McDowell, our city commissioner. Mail will be delivered to Welland Park. If it says Northport, Florida 34293.
Yep.
Many people don't understand this. And Debbie, thank you, but 100% accurate. And actually, if you could put Debbie McDowell in there, Florida 34293, I bet it gets delivered too. And Debbie's not our city either. So I'm just saying that people get confused. They see this, but you have to understand where they've come from too. So respectfully, they've been misled since the day they bought there, because other people, not me, and a lot of the realtors that I know, we don't mislead, but they have workforce salespeople that are there who tell them, don't pay attention to that. You live in
John, I totally get it. I understand why people who live there do that. But these are people that are running for office in Northport, a city commissioner for Northport. If you live in Venice, you cannot run for a city. You have to live in the city that you're going to serve. And to fill that out, one of them filled it out saying Northport. Two of them didn't. I suggest to people, go on the clerk's site, look it up, and pick which ones you want. See which ones they are.
Absolutely.
Right there, black and white. So Anyway.
So I've got another comment. Another issue is some boards only meet during workday hours. I've considered being on the P&Z, but cannot because I work full time. That's been over 22 years of reflection on that comment. It sounds absolutely normal, and it sounds absolutely like the working class has been left out of any decision making power whatsoever. And they've been told by this standard, don't get involved because you're not welcome because you work for a living.
Yeah.
And so we actually have to have some readjustment with all of the boards. They have got to wake up and start including the working class. Retirees love them. They're here. They do a great job volunteering. They do a lot to support our community. But you know what? If you only involve the smallest portion of our average age of 48, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get breakfast meetings, noon meetings, and decisions by people who are not working for a living, who don't really reflect the majority of our town. So we've got to look at that. And I know Debbie McDowell is watching, and Commissioner McDowell is really active in the community. And hopefully she can take some of this information back and kind of build a coalition of change because I think we need it. And if we're going to try to encourage people to be involved, we've got to give them the ability to be involved.
You know, that's a really good point. And I sit on the Charter Review Board. The commissioners can start any committee they want and cancel any committee they want, except for two: the Charter Review Board and the Planning and Zoning. But you know, if Commissioner McDowell would, I don't know if I can't ask her, I guess, but it might be interesting to see about putting in the charter. I can bring it up at a meeting. That we have evening, you know, for boards to make it more convenient for people. Maybe they should all meet at night. I know the Charter Review Board does. We meet from 6 to 8 on the third or fourth Wednesday of the month, but it's a 6 o'clock meeting. So
I guess I'll throw this up there just because I want to be fair and balanced, but I will say this, that Sean O'Connell, I'm going to flash this up. You know, maybe you're the worthless comment of the day. I still wish you a great and happy holiday. Have a good weekend. But you know, it's people like you who need to grow up. When you're bad mouthing a territory within your same county, it really makes you look like the biggest fool in the world. And I'm kind of glad that you're out there and you say this, because it actually shows what's wrong with our community if people listen to people like you. So I will take your comment down now. If you've got something positive to say, Sean, feel free to add something in. But after this, your comments, they mean nothing after this. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. But talking with you, Peter, you know, we've been here years. We've watched this city turn corners. We've watched houses be worth millions of dollars now here in Northport, which they were projected to be back in 2008. You know, according to Sean, what a great ghetto we have in $1 million homes. We're no longer that stepchild that he wants to believe that we are. And hopefully we're changing the minds of the morons that are out there in the world that really need educated on what we are and who we are and what we're about as a community. And I really believe that the more that we get people engaged, the more that we talk to them, the more that we give them great answers and great foundations. The city is thriving now, and it's going to continue to do so. And we have the biggest and the best opportunity right now to get people involved. We've got the Atlanta Braves here. We've got Welland Park going. We've got different areas of growth happening here in Northport. And, you know, the biggest thing in the world is to get people to participate, I think one of the things that you did back in the day, and we've talked about this in the past, is that things need to happen with some structure and some, I think, open arms. You wouldn't have built the projects that you had going if you didn't meet in the evenings. If you would have met at noon or 1 o'clock, you would have had the same 12 people, maybe 8, maybe 5, and things would have been a little different. I think right now, as things go on, some of these things have to change, and I think we're getting a lot of people that are listening right now and sharing this information because more people are joining. I think a lot of people feel the same way. How do you feel, Peter?
I agree. The commission meets during the day, and a 10 o'clock meeting and a 6 o'clock meeting. So and they do it to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to come before the commission. I think you can do the same thing in planning and zoning. I know that they probably do it during the day because typically people who are asking for zoning changes are builders and what have you, and they come before the planning and zoning board. So I think maybe, a first reading could be either in the evening, wherever you're looking to get more participation. But I think you can alternate it like they do at the commission meetings. I think that's a good idea. I like that. Some committees, I think it doesn't matter whether they meet in the day or the evening and whatever. It's dependent upon their mission and what they're trying to accomplish. And so I don't know about having everyone do that, but it's worth the discussion for sure.
Well, and I think that the biggest thing is to have open dialogue about some of these things and get people to understand that blocking participation is worse than anything else. That maybe that is the old school way of blocking involvement. And today it's, why can't we have participation? Why can't we get people involved in the time frame that they can be involved in? You can have these meetings now on video and work these things out, and it's going to be I think more positive input to any meeting.
Well, here's a thought. If you go to the clerk's website, which is cityofnorthport.com/government/city-leadership/city-clerk.records. But it's easy enough to find. If you just go on search for the clerk for the city of Northport, you'll get it. It has a public comment section. And if you click on that, and I've done this, you can submit a online or a voicemail message. I think it's 24 hours before a meeting, a commission meeting, and they will read your comments into the section, into that meeting. So, and you've got a lot of words. I mean, you can get your thoughts across, and it's another way of participating. So I'd encourage people, because I know people that work at night that can't make 6 o'clock meetings. I mean, you can't, that's why I like the 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening kind of approach. So it gives people an option. But now with the clerk, you can submit a written comment. They give you the link. It's available from 8 in the morning, the day before the meeting, until 1 hour prior to the start of that meeting. So I think that's pretty cool. And it's another way for people to participate. They don't have to necessarily go there. Yes, and Brian just put that down. Thank you, Brian.
Brian Lincoln, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Northport Forward, they got it all. They know all these things.
Well, and that's the whole key, is that people, if they want accurate information, we're not trying to fluff anything here. We're really trying to focus on getting involvement. We've seen great involvement on this show. We've seen negative involvement on this show, And quite frankly, it's good. Sometimes you got to have the negative out there.
Yep.
To sidestep what they're talking about in order to get to the heart of the conversation. And it's really about how can you make a community greater and really get the participation it needs from its citizens that we're lacking today. A lot of these things that are happening out there really have come about because there are active groups. There are a lot of active smaller groups, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease more often than the larger groups, because the larger groups don't really populate together on voice. And really that's all I'm trying to get people to do is if you've got an idea and you want to present it, then get involved in a group. I brought up Sean because we're going to be the ghetto. Well, I'm sorry. It's just such a bad statement that, go back up north, do your thing. He said he was from Ukraine. I don't care where you're from. It's nothing against Ukrainians. I've met some really great Ukrainians out there, and they don't think this way at all. So that negative thought process that people have, why can't you find a way? And we've talked to people like this before, and converted them, and because this is not about degrading where we live. This is really about how can we make it better. And go ahead.
Yeah, to his point, though, every city or most cities have a quote unquote ghetto. But really, what is a ghetto in most cities? It's an area that doesn't keep itself up, if you will. Okay, there's garbage in front of the homes. There's 15 cars on the lots, whatever. Well, that can be handled through code enforcement. Okay, and that can be handled through planning and zoning. You can get on these committees. You can let the government know. If the government doesn't know what the thoughts are, then you've got an issue. If they know what they are and they're still not doing anything about it, then you have a choice to get more vocal or run for office and get the people out that aren't doing what you think needs to be done. But I like to think Northport has a very diverse housing market. Okay, yes, we've got multi-million-dollar homes and we've got homes that are very affordable. I'm proud of that. I don't know if Sarasota has that. I think Sarasota has expensive homes and, really cheap homes. There's no middle road. In fact, one of the problems they have is the waiters and waitresses that work there can't afford to live there. They have to travel half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour to get to work. Right. That said, we could have it all here. I think what we're lacking is jobs that are local to Northport that are high-paying jobs, and that's one thing that I always push for, and we need, and we need that tax base. So, but I just don't think you need to call it a ghetto, Sean. And I agree. You got to have some property standards. I know I want it on my area. I don't want people, making the area look poor, because then when it comes time to sell, guess what? My house isn't going to have the same value.
And quite frankly, I sell all over, and,
sure.
and I've lived up north, and I've seen true ghetto where we have left people behind and we have not paid attention, and those things are not part of the fabric of our community right now. And when we have to be proud of that. And I don't care what city you go into right now. Most of the cities down here don't have that terminology related to them whatsoever. And as a professional in the industry, we don't use terminology like that because it reflects poorly on any citizen who lives there. And to have that out there, it's a form of a conversation that I don't like to engage in, because I like to engage positively with everyone in our community, no matter where they are on the financial level. And so I think that people need to wake up and pay attention, because You know, we talked about leadership. We talked about the skill set that it takes to be leaders. Think about that for a minute. Even in this show, if you're letting people who have that mindset lead your community or be on your board, or and they're the only voice, maybe they're the voice of reason.
Yeah.
For what objective? That's why we need people to get involved, even if you've only got an hour. We need to keep the platforms moving forward.
Yeah.
I think that Barbara Lockhart is dead on the money on a lot of things. I would love to have an open dialogue with her more. I've done that with Chuck English. I think there's so much to be learned when you just sit down and engage with people versus the name calling and the bashing. I'm not a fan of it. If you don't like the show, goodbye. It's not a problem. And the fact that he's throwing numbers out there, that's not the only part of my show, bro. I have radio followers. I have all kinds of followers elsewhere. And I'll guarantee you that the working class are paying attention. They watch the show back because the information that's being given is really, truly about the place that they love to be. And that's really what this is all about. Peter, you got anything to add?
No, I'm just realizing, and I apologize. I usually use my phone. I've got it on my Chromebook right now, and it seems to be working really good. Right. And I just realized that there's a comment section on the side. I can read all of these comments.
Oh, yeah.
I've just been reading them when you pop them up.
Yeah.
These are really good comments. And, there's no stupid questions. There's only stupid answers. And, people need to stand up. And if you haven't got the hour, heck, you can write an email. Have your email read up to 2,000 characters. That's a lot of words at a commission meeting. You can have your point at a commission meeting. I would love to see them have to take, 15 minutes to read all the comments. Let people stand up that way. You don't have to get in front of an audience. You got time. You can work your words, get what you want to say. Make sure it's exactly what you want. Have it done in Word or in Chrome on Docs, and then edit it and then copy and paste it in, which is what I do. And then copy and paste it into the comment section 24 hours before the meeting. It's a great tool, and we don't use it enough. I don't see a lot of comments coming out. We should have 10 or 15 or 20 comments at every meeting. And you can look at their agenda and see, you have to, tell them what part of the agenda you want to have a comment on. And somebody wrote in here, and I can't find it now, but the builders will come to an evening meeting. Richard Toronto. I agree with that. I'm just saying you can make it. You can make it both, because sometimes people, not just the builders, sometimes people can't make the evening meeting. So have it during the day, like they do at the commission. But that's a good comment. He's right.
He is 100% right. And when I read it, I just didn't say builder. I didn't see the builder. You know what I read into what he said? Is people who want to build our community could be there.
That's right.
It's just not the builder. The builder has a critical role in our community. But it's people who want to build with the builder.
Yeah.
With the accountant, with the roofer. It's a correlation of people who have a positive and strategic mindset to push our community further and farther than it's ever been before. And that's what we're lacking. And until we get those adjusted, and I love the participation, and I want to thank every single person, negative or not. This can't happen unless everybody gets involved. Mindsets can't change. Rules can't change. Committee days and times can't change unless people get involved and start really asking for these things and demanding them from who? Not me. I'm a show host. We have people you can demand change to. What do you think we're talking about? This is really about participation and changing your community one voice at a time. And you got a voice here. And you got a voice if you use it, and you have a voice of power if you build a group of people. There are organizations out there that have. Northport Forward absolutely get involved with them, understand what they're attempting to do. Our new commissioners that are running, don't ignore the fact that they're trying to get elected and wait for their vote that you're not going to cast to let them make your decisions because you didn't take time out to learn anything about them. Think about that for a minute. All of the negative I just put behind the lack of a no vote, that's the citizens' fault. That's what's got to change.
I agree. And Barbara's point on getting to the public comment read before the item, you have to submit it to public comment at the beginning of the agenda. I think if you submit and you identify the item on the agenda, you can see the agenda. It's published every, before. If you put that on your comment card, it'll be read before that item. If you don't put any comment down, then it's going to be read in at the end probably. So,
well,
but if you have a question, check with the clerk.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to get off your butt. You can do that by phone. You can do it on email. They're very accessible. The clerk's office is really accessible in this city.
Yep. And Chuck's comment, diversity as perspective is where you find solutions if you seek.
I agree.
And that is true.
Just on that point, because Bill, you are spot on. We don't want to, I keep hearing people say, I don't want to talk about, the Democrats this, the Republicans that. They don't want to hear the diverse of opinions. Well, then how do I learn? How do I learn what the alternatives are? Otherwise, we wind up talking to people who agree with us. And guess what you learn from that? Nothing. I want to have a stimulating conversation that on other people's perspective. That's where the learning takes place. And we've lost that in this country, and we've lost it locally.
Yep. And Debbie McDowell, thanks. I didn't see this comment earlier, but many advisory board meetings are in the evening. A few are in the daytime. Commission will be having a workshop on advisory boards in the near future. I appreciate everybody. I've got to go because I'm going to run beyond my time frame. But I really appreciate everybody's involvement today. It's been great to have this dialogue. I appreciate all the comments, negative or not. Please have a great weekend. Drive safe. Peter, great show. Yep. Love having you on. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.